But their story didn't end there.
How could there have been only one? And he's back in business.
Is the worst idea in the history of bad ideas.
Part 2 is the final chapter in the violent history.
This time, it's personal.
About a year ago, we gave this city Robocop.
Ready for duty, partner?
Nothing I'd rather do.
I think he's worked out pretty well.
Have a seat. This is a bust.
But things have become a little rougher out there.
This unit needs millions of dollars in parts. You see, Robocop's off warranty.
He's one of mine, and I want him back on his feet.
I believe that Murphy's case was unusual, but not unique. We can find someone else, someone to whom the prospect might even be desirable.
And now, we need a law enforcement unit capable of meeting the enemy on his own ground.
She's screaming psychotic, sir.
Well, we aren't planning to build a toy. I'm carrying enough firepower to get the job done.
I got good news for you. You're going to have a chance for immortality.
With great pleasure, I give you Robocop 2. Ah, yes. Things will be a lot quieter with this boy around.
That thing is a killer!
Kane! Let's step outside.
You're obsolete!
Think it over, creep.
Behave yourselves!
This recorder does have drops. Ooh, that's too loud. Shit.
What the fuck? Well, you better keep your fucking finger right where it's at, because we're going to use those throughout this whole fucking thing.
We'll be right back.
That'd be fun to implement, like the dystopian commercials via, like, we'll be right back from a
not doing that, Brent. You're telling me to edit something?
I know that's no.
To
edit something.
If it's not here, it's not happening.
The laugh track.
Was that the one? No, wait, this is it. It's not even a laugh.
Oh yeah, you're right. Damn it.
Well, that's just like a stinger.
One's good. That's good as hell.
Okay, here we go. If you like getting high off that sweet, sweet nuke, OCP, you know me, the lawless land of 2043 Detroit, kid drug dealers, little league looters, $500 million in cash, a pint of Sunblock 5000, flexible violin players playing Born to be Wild, sexy robot hand touching, and robots and cops. And you're going to love the sequel we're talking about this week. The sequel to Robocop, we're talking Robocop 2. Yeah, settle down. Welcome to Revenge of the Sequel, the podcast just about sequels. I was about to say we talk all things, and then I realized there's nothing. We just talk sequels. So we talk a bunch of sequels. We're out of the Halloween mindset, and it's November now, and you may be thinking to yourself, we need Law and Order. I don't know what the seasonality of RoboCop 2 is, to be honest with you. I guess just if you think that this is happening, then it's crazy that you would want a robotic cop. My name is Emmanuel.
Hey, I'm Andrew. What's up? It's John.
And we've got a guest. It's Brent.
Hey, everybody.
Settle down.
What are those things? They're just built into the.
They're built in. I think I can change them.
Are those presets?
So people know we're recording on a new Zoom Pod, whatever, and it comes
called the Pod. What?
The Pod Track P4.
But we're in person, not on Zoom.
Yeah, we're in person.
Oh yeah, that can be confusing.
It comes with 4 drops automatically, and we're just gonna have a good time with them. And I have to make sure it translates to the.
I can't wait till like there's no audio, and we're just waiting for like the laugh track. Thank you very much.
Have we ever talked RoboCop?
We have not. I think this is our first
foray into the RoboCop forest.
We're popping our robotic cop cherry.
There you go.
Okay. Let's settle down.
Brent, they love how direct you are.
Yeah.
I mean,
awesome. We get like live
y'all,
audience tracks.
Are y'all?
On the fucking podcast.
I mean, I guess John, how old were you when you saw RoboCop? Drew said y'all grew up with RoboCop, but I'm assuming you don't have like a life-size version of Policeman in your living room.
No, we've had. It's kind of weird, now thinking that like my parents are probably not wise to let us watch RoboCop as a kid, but
this was straight about drug abuse in this one.
Yeah, I've known about this movie since I was a kid. This movie, along with like Aliens and Terminator and stuff, was stuff that I grew up on. RoboCop 2. I don't know which one I actually saw first. To be honest, RoboCop 2 or 1. Those kind of, as a kid, those kind of always kind of blended together. Obviously, when you get older and you realize that RoboCop 1 is a really good movie and RoboCop 2 isn't. That's a change for you whenever you get older, But yeah, I mean, I love this movie. I'm gonna just hand it over. I guess Drew, we have similar stories, but huge RoboCop fan growing up. Had multiple toys. Watched the cartoon that came out, the crappy series that was on Fox, or some shit like the Prime Directive show, like that very low budget RoboCop show that was like looked like it was filmed. It was like very very low budget and it was just really crappy. But watched that as a kid. It was awesome. I even like the reboot that came out like a couple of years ago with what's his name?
We talked about that movie. Did we talk about that movie or no?
I don't think we talked about it.
We watched it in theaters.
Oh, did we actually talk about it? Maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It wasn't a sequel.
Wasn't? Okay.
It wasn't, but it was this podcast has episodes that
there was definitely an attempt to do that legacy sequel thing.
Yeah,
rebooted.
I like that one though because that had its own. I mean, it was a really cool actual redo of the mythos, and I enjoyed it. But yeah, RoboCop's always been a cool thing. It's a very dated concept and very simple and stupid when you think about it. But it's fun movie and very fun. What do they call these? Like these were the high concept movies of a robot that's a cop and shit. And so but fun movies for I even like that crappy third one that we're not talking about today. But there's a third movie which is I was telling Brent right before we started recording, and I guess Brent was surprised that he actually flies in the third one. So that's pretty cool.
Things progress.
He gets like the biggest glow up aesthetically in the third one. He has like an arm cannon, and then like Samus Aran.
You're describing Iron Man.
To be honest, Iron Man got a lot of stuff from this one. I think you can tell. There's a lot of similarities. One of them is Obadiah Stane. The other one is Iron Man himself. But yeah, like John, I have a similar story where like RoboCop has always kind of been a thing in my life because I was exposed to him pretty early on in life, watching these movies early. And people always put the Predator and Alien up against each other. So when we were little, it's like Terminator and RoboCop were part of that same thing. They even had a video game, I think, that we played for the NES.
Terminator versus RoboCop.
And so, there's been plenty of comics and all that stuff that cross over those specific franchises. But yeah, they've all kind of helped me grow up. They being around the movies for so long, being young and all. But this one actually used to scare me. RoboCop 2 specifically used to scare the shit out of me.
It's a pretty violent movie.
Yeah, they straight up chop open some dude's head, and the horrible CGI Kane when he starts to freak out and roll his eyes back and yell and stuff used to freak me out.
Really unsettling.
When he ran up the elevator shaft, that was
stop
spooky.
motion. Yeah, that used to freak me out as well. So I remember hating the kid as much as I hated the kid in this one as well, where I was like, damn, it wasn't just like I was envious, like, man, I wish I was that kid when I was a kid. But no, I'm just like, damn, this kid's a little bitch.
Yeah.
So it as long as I could walk, because I think the third one came out in 1992, which is the year I was born. So by the time I was 4, 5, 6, 7, all these movies existed. So we were babysat by the TV. So yeah, RoboCop's a long lost brother.
Yeah, other than Jackie Chan, RoboCop's probably like the coolest on screen cop.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't like Winslow
from Family Matters?
From Family Matters. Yeah, that's right.
It's like Carl Winslow.
What about he's also in
he's a cool cop.
What about John
right?
McClane?
Die Hard.
John McClane.
I mean,
coolest
cop.
Up
there.
Yeah.
What about Time Cop?
A lot of really cool. I mean, cops are only cool when they're fictional, I guess. It's just so. But yeah, RoboCop was up there, I guess. But so stuff for that.
Yeah, and it definitely. Well, Brent, I'll ask you about the RoboCops that you have seen or maybe haven't seen, but this franchise definitely sits in that kind of satirical, kind of, hyper dramatic, world buildy section of action movies of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Paul Verhoeven movie. He's a director I love. This is very much RoboCop is definitely a satire, not as like hardcore of a satire as like Starship Troopers, which he does like in the 90s, which is like a straight up satire of like fascism. But RoboCop is still a satire, and like that's kind of the ideology behind it, where it's like kind of having its cake and eating it too a little bit, where it's like satirizing all of these things, but it's also like a great action movie that has like ethos and all that stuff. I had never seen the first RoboCop until, Jesus, I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago. It's whenever my like bachelor party weekend was. That me and like 4 friends went up to Austin. We had like a Airbnb, and we were like stocking up on like drinks and food and stuff like that. So we stopped at HEB, and someone, I forgot who, saw like RoboCop on DVD at HEB and was just like, I'm gonna buy this. No, you know what? It was me. It was me who bought it, because I was like, I've never seen this. We're gonna watch this.
He finally admits it. He's been blaming an unknown person this whole time
for RoboCop. Yeah, exposure.
Yeah, so it was. And I was like, I've never seen this. We're gonna watch it, and then it ended up being like this weird kind of like theme of the whole weekend, where like we only had one thing around to watch, and it was RoboCop. So I think we watched it like 4 times, and then at some point somebody like went out and bought the new one, but I was very sick from the night before. I felt like shit, so I was in bed like all day. And they watched it, and they were like, yeah, the original's better. So I didn't see it until that, like, that
bachelor party weekend.
Yeah, and nice. I watched it a whole bunch of times and was just like, this is the fucking best movie. So I loved the first one, and I had never seen 2 until last night. Boy,
there's a lot going on in this.
A lot going on.
You shouldn't have rewatched the first one.
Yeah, that's what I did. I rewatched the first one before watching 2, and didn't do 2 any favors.
Yeah, John wanted to so bad, and I was like, I guarantee you, we're gonna have a worse time in the second one.
Well, the first, just to set some context, the first RoboCop did really well. The studio wanted to make a second one and release it right before the election. The original writers, wrote a very high stakes kind of like they had names for different towns, and it was called the Corporate Wars. It was going to be something insane, and Oliver Stone was directing. Paul Newman was going to be in the movie, and then the writer's strike happened, and good old Frank Miller crossed the picket line to write this movie, and they filmed it in Houston. Like, there's a lot of really interesting behind the scenes stuff that's going on, but RoboCop 2, apart from all the drama behind the scenes, released in 1990. And John, what did you think about RoboCop 2?
So I'm rediscovering RoboCop 2. I've seen it like countless times growing up, and always thought it was a weird, fucked up movie. Like even back then, because you growing up, and doing all these like I see kind of like a trend or like a pattern when it came to like 90s movie sequels, like. Die Hard 2 is an ugly movie to me. Like it's kind of like mean, and it's cynical, meaner than the first Die Hard movie. Like they show a plane crash with civilians that that happens, and it's kind of like a little disturbing. Predator 2 is also a very weirdly like ugly, mean movie too compared to the first one. Like it's very, there's the kills are over the top, and there's like a more gore. It's a little bit more cynical. RoboCop 2 fits like that too. RoboCop 1 is pretty brutal. Like the violence is kind of, it's there because it's kind of over the top. It's very self-aware. But this one's kind of like not that it's not self-aware. It very kind of knows that, but it is kind of a little bit more on the cynical side, and it's gory. There's some disturbing sequences. The dialogue is just awful at times. It ranges from like, oh, that could have been cool, and then someone says, just the delivery is either weird, like, a little too dramatic. Especially, I'm looking at that kid, I guess, whenever, like, he throws lines and stuff, and it's always, like, either some sort of...
He cusses a lot.
But
he's
it's
aggressive. He's an aggressive little boy.
Yeah.
His name is Hobb, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a weird movie. I mean, even just rediscovering it right now is just, like, watching it, it's still very, very off-putting at times. Very uneven. Like, I think the pace kind of, like, is all over the place at
And
times.
don't want to jump to the end, but... It's a cliffhanger.
Yeah, there's a cliffhanger. I mean, yeah, it ends abruptly, and at one point you don't really get into. I don't know. I'm saying, I guess maybe that speaks to the way it feels uneven, because like, you do get to, you don't know who the antagonist is at some point. Like you're kind of, it's OCP, it's and then it's personified through this doctor, but maybe not. Maybe it's just the old man.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And then you have Robocop 2.
Yeah. Robocop 2, which comes in literally at the very end, like as
Drew's point, a lot like Iron Man.
Yeah. Yeah, you get like a obligated that sequence, as cool as it is, because there's a lot of stop motion animation in that Kane versus Robocop fight. As cool as that sequence is, and it's probably the best part of the movie, it feels out of place because like the rest of the movie was kind of like not like that.
They resolve all of that before.
Yeah. And right. So yeah, it's a weird flick. I mean, I'm hoping to kind of gain a final opinion, even though I've seen this like countless times. I'm hoping to gain a final opinion, like kind of just in talking with y'all.
Yeah.
Because like it's kind of up in the air. Like I'm not sure if I do very much enjoy it. I don't know if that's still my nostalgia talking because I grew up with the movie. Because I think I'd like RoboCop 3, but even though I know that one's even worse than this one. But yeah, overall it's hell of a sequel, or like a hell of a swing, and then. It definitely doesn't stick any landings, but it's definitely like,
it tries a lot of different
things.
Yeah.
It's
Drew, what'd you think of RoboCop 2? Are you on board?
Oh, I was like, please God, don't put me on the spot regarding cops.
No, I was honestly gonna ask you.
What about RoboCops?
Robotic cops, my favorite type of cops.
You have, technically, red light cameras. RoboCops.
We have it on in the background, and I guess to John's point, it really is uneven because, man, like even Murphy's motivation of like, hey, at the beginning they're like, you need to stop stalking your wife because you're not this and that, and then that's the only time they mention it, and then they keep going, and I'm like, man, like his whole motivation from the first one is completely gone.
The humanity,
and in this one, it's more of like a full-on cop story where it's like, I'm a cop, this guy did me dirty and like took me out, and now I gotta take him out, and that's as deep as it gets. Mm-hmm. But it's very it is super odd. I got a lot of PTSD from when they used to scare me as a kid during this movie, but it's most unfortunate that it has to follow up the first one, I guess, because if it would have followed up the third one, they'd be like, damn, this movie's way better than the one with when he has the jetpack. But it just doesn't quite measure up or stick the landing. I love Peter Weller's performance.
Oh yeah, Peter Weller's pretty good
because he's so. I met Peter Weller, and it was just kind of surreal to meet him because of these movies, I guess, and that was one of the whole reasons I geeked out. So anytime I see him, I'm like, oh man, like I know he has that sequence here where he's like the nice RoboCop, and everyone's like, this is so campy and cheesy, and I like loved it because I was like, this is it's so funny and it's the best, and
he really commits to the robot bit, like the way he moves and shit. Like
it's this one especially.
He's so good, and so there are parts of this that I can enjoy, like the fight at the end is cool. I still want a replica of that little nuke container as my RoboCop like prop on my shelf.
Sure, you don't need the replica. I can get you the real nuke.
Nuclear codes. And so
from Florida.
It's not like I completely hate this movie, I think, but it's just most unfortunate that again it has to follow up like an all-time classic that the first one is, with stuff like it's not even half the movie that the first one is really, even with the stuff that I enjoyed, but. It's just kind of a little bit weird that like some of the supporting cast that made the first one so good takes a back seat in this one. Like Lewis is like nowhere to be seen in this movie. She pops up maybe like once
Nancy
or twice.
Allen, right?
Yeah. And obviously they get his wife out of the way real quick. And then that's about it. The new cast kind of takes over, which is these over the top cult. Over the top cult that we focus on, and even the mayor, where I'm like, man, this dude's acting his heart out, but it ain't working.
We have that Kevin Nealon lookalike lawyer dude who like at one point looks like he's gonna be a bad guy but isn't. I don't know, like,
I mean, they have like characters like that, like they hire this OCP hires that new girl who's picking out the doctor. The doctor. She's picking out the test subjects or whatever.
Scapegoat, I guess, towards the end.
And she's using this guy's lab, and this guy is like always yelling at her, like, "You're not gonna use my lab for that." And they're just like, God, like it's that type of movie, huh? And
it takes like the I think it tries to do the satire and like zany parts of the first one, but like it kind of like I don't know.
I think
falls really flat in trying to execute.
The only time it works
like
is
that.
during the fake commercials, which
even then they're still kind of
off
over
at the
the
beginning.
top.
Yeah. And I mean they're over the top in the first one too, but
I guess so.
it kind of reminds me of that bit, but it doesn't quite work as well in this one because it just feels kind of hollow. Which, to be honest, Kirshner and Frank Miller, that sounds like a crazy match made in heaven type of weird movie that we would most likely enjoy most of the time. But in this one, it doesn't, again, stick the landing, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. There's still a lot of really similar themes, I think, to the first one, but definitely definitely a lot more.
Didn't it predict? Like, apparently it predicted that, like, it was just a prediction. I don't think they intentionally did, but like, did the city of Detroit, didn't it go like bankrupt or something? Like,
yeah, it's one of the interesting things that they I guess
didn't they approach
cast a light on
drug dealers for bail?
And Robocop is real. He's out there now.
He's in Detroit.
Brent, what'd you think of Robocop 2? And I do notice your shirt that says, nope, not gonna make that joke. Never mind. Go ahead.
You done with OCP? Yeah, you know me.
Wasn't a huge fan of it. Like I said, it was done a great disservice by watching
the first
one of the best action movies of all time, like right before it. But to speak to what Drew said about like the Irvin Kershner and Frank Miller thing, I think what ended up happening is I don't know if they like bumped heads or like what the deal was, but like it just felt like they were on different wavelengths because Frank Miller is a guy who, pros and cons, like he has a lot of ideas. The guy always has like a lot of ideas going on in this stuff.
Probably
and
a
this
lot of
movie has
cons,
a lot.
actually.
A lot of cons probably too. Hitting a lot of cons.
He's like, but The Dark Knight Returns, hated it.
I mean, Dark Knight Returns is good. His Daredevil, pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I think this movie tries to replicate kind of what the first does in its like hierarchy of villains, kind of, and like the way that there are like politicians and there's corporations and like kind of like the struggle between them and like kind of them like leapfrogging over each other to like take over power and stuff like that. And I just think like that is so well handled in like a satirical way in the first one that this movie I think really fumbles it, and it feels very convoluted in a way that the first couple times I saw it, I didn't fully capture like what was going on plot wise, like in the way that like what's his name? Miguel Sapochnik is the guy who's in. Is that his name?
Which one?
No, I'm thinking of the director of Game of Thrones, Miguel Ferrer.
Miguel Ferrer. Yeah.
In the first one is kind of like the new hot shot guy, and then like he gets like screwed over by the guy he screwed over and stuff like that, and it's a little convoluted too. But this one, it's juggling like a lot. It really does try to like. I mean, I think the thing that is a bummer in the first place is, this is gonna sound harsh, but it's like it's our franchise reality where like we get sequels to everything, but like the first movie has one of the most perfect endings I think any action movie has ever had. I think like when he's asked like what his name is, his helmet is off and he says Murphy, and then it's like bam, Robocop, final end credit. You're like, fuck yeah, man, like he's himself again. Like sure, he's still Robocop, like he has the abilities of Robocop, but like he has his identity. And then like this movie starting like
he's like I'm a cop again, baby.
Yeah, like dialing that back.
They literally reset him.
They do, and it's a bummer. And then they kind of like try to kind of like they do like a half-ass thing with like his wife, where basically the only reason that exists is to be like, no. Let's fully dial this back.
And it's kind of sort of
confident.
confusing because she's suing them, and then she comes in and she's like, "Remember me?"
Well,
and I'm like,
so
"Whoa!"
weird.
But
why are
also,
you
he's
suing?
still like going to visit her, and then suddenly when they visit, there's like, "Oh no, I'm good. I'm not gonna visit your ass throughout the whole movie."
It's kind of, I get it. Like he's sacrificing something, but it's pretty dark too. Remember when he tries to kill himself in this? Like he tries to fry himself.
I think that might be. I mean, I think what you're saying, Brent, actually kind of hits on why maybe this one like kind of fails too. This one doesn't have a really upbeat like I don't know. I want to say tone or end.
Like a heart to it.
It doesn't have a heart to it because I was like, I guess that first one there's still hopefulness in all that stuff that happens because of what happens at the end and stuff. And I guess even the way the police department acts in that one too, they kind of act sort sort of heroic and like noble in this one too. But I think
kind of they're all on strike for the most of the part.
Yeah, but I think in the first one it works better. This one's kind of like a little bit more cynical. Like the people who were sort of protagonists in the first one are antagonists this time around, and so it's just like there's a bleaker outlook on the world in this one than there is in the first one.
It's really, this movie's really nihilistic too.
Yeah,
where I was like doing the math in my head, and like what you were bringing up, John, like the movies of that era, I don't know, you can usually kind of like track it to, you know, the politics of the time, and it's like there were very cynical nihilist movies like during like the Clinton era. For whatever reason, and like
strong economy, baby. If the economy's stupid,
it's like
that?
Right. It's so I don't know, but it's like during that era, like there were a lot of like weird, cynical takes on like the world, and like this one is very much like when I was like, this movie's like a lot, and it's very cynical and dark, and
there's
then,
a lot
it
of like
goes to the
civilians
kids.
that actually die. There's like civilians
he's reading
that
the
die.
Miranda rights to the corpse, and you're like, God damn.
Well, there's collateral damage on screen that actually happens. Like there's a cutaway to like a lady being shot in the legs, and then someone trying to help her up,
and then she
gets shot.
Yeah, and it's just like, wow, this is really dark.
I want to go, since we're talking about that sequence, I want to talk about how this movie starts, and that opening sequence, which is not all one take, but it's one kind of unbroken sequence, and it's a lady who gets robbed after someone almost hits her with a car,
and then
that robber
that guy.
gets beaten up and robbed by a hooker who almost get blown up after a pawn shop explodes because some robbers are trying to steal from the pawn shop, and
they're stealing guns.
They're
stealing
guns from a gun shop.
Yeah,
and it's kind of bonkers. Just kind of and I think that's like how it opens.
And
that's
then
how they raise the stakes.
It leads into the conflict with Robocop. So like, this $1 bill left this grandma's pocket into this robber, and then from there into the hookers, and then from the hookers to these other robbers again, and then to Robocop.
It's a great short film. You know,
well, it very much struck me as like something that Frank Miller would do in like a comic. Like they'd take place over like a bunch of panels. You like see the trajectory of like the way the city's gone downhill,
and then boom, you hit Batman the wall.
And I'm interested too. I mean, we talk about the police being on strike, and I don't know what ethical conflict the strike ends after they find drug money to pay for all the cops, but that storyline is really close to the Writers Guild strike that Frank Miller had to step in because. So I don't know. Like, it's a very interesting thing to like throw in the reason why you're making the movie into the movie you're making. In like kind of the context. I do want to bring up some of the topics that I wrote down, and this isn't all of them because as y'all are talking about how I would say unfocused the movie is, or how many things are introduced. Here's some of the themes that at least I thought was there. I mean, obviously the connection between the government and corporations, that's huge. It was going to be called Corporate Wars, but they talk about make something in America, you know, making it
safe again.
Safe, make, you know, this stuff is made in America. Nuke is made in America, you know, something that will be proud again. Like the drug dealers are saying the same thing that the corporation is saying. I thought that was really interesting. Drug addiction's in this. The way we pass violence on to our youth is in this. There's humanity and memories, not, of course, as big as the first movie. There's something about his freedom and autonomy that they mess with. They talk about climate change in this movie. Like, all of this is introduced sometimes very quickly and like almost to no real like comment. Does that make sense? Like, it's a lot of it is very much like, look at how awful all of the roads our country is leading us towards. But it doesn't necessarily give us like a way to fix it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's why I think you're saying it's cynical, because he's literally just showing us the problems that exist.
Yeah, and
you know,
I think
stepping away.
And that's what makes the first one so good, is that like Verhoeven very much like balances the it's like not self-aware in a weird way, where it's like he's making an earnest piece of propaganda, basically. Like, and that's what he does in Starship Troopers too, but like that's what he's doing in RoboCop, but he's putting this heart, you know, of the story with like this guy and his identity and stuff, and this whole system that is just like propped up on all of this like you know, all of these, you know, corrupt kind of individuals that are like working in these corporations. And then this one kind of just like loses the plot a little bit. It like loses that focus of like,
it's definitely not about
having
Alex Murphy and his journey
Yeah.
as much as it is about
there are like
all the
long
stuff around
stretches
him.
where he's like not in it because
Yeah.
especially after
We care about
boy,
Kane a
we got
lot.
Kane,
We care about Kane,
Tom Noonan,
Hobb, Angie. We care about them all. Like
the great Tom Noonan from Synecdoche, New York, and plenty of other like Charlie Kaufman stuff. I think Manhunter. He's the killer in Manhunter.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Great actor, not given much to do. Like that's
He's in,
another
like,
thing I think this movie
X-Files,
loses.
isn't he, right? He's in
Yeah,
X-
he's in one of the best X-Files
Yeah.
episodes. Is that like the first one has such a great villain, like a simple villain, but like he's
Red
just
Foreman.
evil. Yeah, Red Foreman himself. And this one, it's like it's like kind of. Even I finished the movie and I still don't really know what his focus is.
It doesn't. I mean, I think his presence and the way like the actor's screen presence, I guess, is what kind of like makes him very villainous. But yeah, even watching it, I was just like, I don't get it. Like I'm just like, it's just he just looks scary every time he says something.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's very weird.
And what's his motivation? Is it just to do drugs?
It's Nuke. I mean, literally
I just
towards
wanna
the
do
end,
drugs.
it shows him not having a connection. He's spoiler. Well, you've watched the movie at this point. He is RoboCop 2 at some point because his brain is so good, and he wants to give everyone Nuke, and he forgets about his partners. He kills his girlfriend Angie in a really fucked up way. He's like not human anymore.
Of withdrawals.
But he like is RoboCop. No memories, no nothing except
Nuke.
He still loves that nuke, and that is what kills him at the end. And it's kind of when you talk about cynical, it's kind of the idea that you can strip it all away, but give us a little bit of that drugs, and we will not turn away.
Yeah, because there's the scene where they're manufacturing it. And he's walking through like that truck or bus or whatever.
They're making different kinds.
He's like, people won't have to deal with
flavor.
any of their complicated, like any of their emotional trauma or stress.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be a nuke for everything. And it's just like,
did he
what
predict
is that
too?
commenting on? Yeah, like what is that?
Microdosing. That's what that's commenting on, I think, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I still don't really know like what Kane's whole deal
Drugs.
is.
We just told you.
He could have been.
He's about that nuke life.
I mean, I've been reading a little bit of there's a lot of production history on it. Apparently, there was a lot of clashes between there's a lot of screen.
I feel that.
Like obviously, like screenplay rewrites and like Kirshner. Clashing Kirshner and what's his name, Miller clashing with Orion Pictures and stuff. It sounds like it was crazy. Apparently, at one point, they described the environment, the set, as hell on earth. They said Kirshner had obsessive fickiness and had costly reshoots, but that was actually debunked by Weller, who said that Kirshner was probably the coolest person on.
But even then, Weller isn't this? He doesn't play RoboCop again, right?
Weller,
this is it.
This is his last one. Yeah.
Because if I'm not mistaken, didn't he hate like being RoboCop sometimes?
I think maybe
like just in terms of
movie, maybe?
just in terms of
Possibly
being
for
in the
this
suit
movie.
and being there constantly and like I haven't looked it up, but
I mean,
I
it
thought
could have
that
been.
maybe this may be the reason why he stopped was because he's a great actor and he just kind of didn't want to do especially in the 90s. To sit in a makeup chair and then someone telling you to like be more robotic, or whatever.
I think he just. I mean, probably because of possibly, and also I can see how that can make someone feel kind of silly after like the second time doing it
for hours and days.
He did say he just didn't enjoy the script though. He said he enjoyed working with Kirshner, but he didn't enjoy he just said like
I don't know if I enjoyed the script as well.
Yeah.
And also you're right. Kirshner's one of the best. Like even with a bad script, you'd kind of want to work with a legend.
Apparently, he was the one who Weller was one of the people who spoke up and said like this script doesn't have a third act. He's like, yeah, well, I fight the monster, but he's like, where's the actual the ending?
Damn, he's coming at you hot. Damn.
And that kind of feels right when you're watching the movie. It kind of abruptly ends like with just use the scapegoat and then just blame it all on her, and then that's
a fight, and no one is held responsible.
Yeah.
So, I wanted people held responsible, man, because I was like, this movie and the prior one made me hate this guy.
You want that Jurassic Park ending to all the bad guys.
I mean,
where they're all getting eaten. You're like,
exactly.
You kind of get a resolution sort of in the third movie if you have enough interest to go and watch
I think
it.
I have to now, just out of requirement.
But tonally, like the third one is very different. Like it's very low budget and it's goofy as hell.
Yeah.
But
who plays RoboCop in the third?
I don't know who plays RoboCop in the third,
Some
but
guy.
what's his name? Stephen Root is in it. And it's the first movie I've ever seen Stephen Root in.
Well, that kind of sells me
Yeah.
on watching it. I like Stephen Root.
He's a villain, but like it's the first time I've ever seen him ever. And then after that, he always was the RoboCop 3 guy for me.
That's
Like
so
going
funny.
from there on out.
He shows up in Office Space. Hey, that guy's in RoboCop because he's
exactly.
the desk guy. Yeah. Stapler.
But yeah, I mean, you do get kind of. I mean, if you're, I guess we're talking about the third one, but if you wanted like an actual, I mean, all of this, the stuff that leads up to this is messy, and I think that third one is maybe a way to kind of wrap up the story, but still in a very bad way. But like, yeah, RoboCop 2 is it sounds from what behind the scenes, it was a mess. It was always going to be a mess, from what happened, from the different iterations that it went through, I guess.
Well, speaking of messes, we're going to play a really nice, organized, fun game that I made maybe 10 minutes ago right now. It's really quick. This movie features robots and cops.
And then puts
And
them
so
together.
guess what this one's going to be about? This one's about a very real thing called AI. Steven Spielberg. No, artificial intelligence. This is a trivia quiz on artificial intelligence. The way that it's going to work, hold on.
Porn.
We're playing a fun game. It's about AI, artificial intelligence. So everyone here, I guess
artificial intelligence was responsible for the sounds you just heard.
Yeah. If you are going to be, so you can't play at home. I guess you can in your head, but everyone here will use the same group chat that we just played that other game for. I'm going to ask questions about AI, and I would say whoever guesses first and correctly will get the most, or will get a point.
Can we use the assistance of actual AI to give us this answer?
Siri, yeah.
No.
Oh, damn.
Well,
can Siri be the fourth player in this game?
I'd like. Oh, well, Siri would win all of them because she is powerful. I was gonna say I like that. That's fun, but I also am imagining the listener listening to a bunch of guys being like, "Hey Siri, hey Siri," hey Siri," just constantly.
What? That sounds good.
Just like someone's listening to this on the way to work and it just like throws off their navigation. Or some shit. Just like
I'm trying to go to my grandma's house.
Everybody likes this game. So I'm going to ask questions about AI, and you'll answer in the group chat. The first person to guess it correctly will get the point.
AI related to like media or just...
We'll find out the hard way. I don't know what that question was. Here we go. Here's the first question. Google CEO Sundar Pichai claimed that AI would be more transformative to the human race than these two other critical discoveries. So the CEO of Google said that AI will be as transformative as these two other critical discoveries. I'll give you a point for each one you guessed right, I guess. But two human discoveries that he thinks AI will be more important than.
John, two things that haven't been discovered yet, though?
That haven't been discovered?
No. These are two things that have been discovered already.
Oh.
Well, John, okay.
Yeah, John guessed. I'll let you guess again because John guessed alien
John does
life.
something we don't.
And after
we got our own Tom DeLonge over here.
Oh, John's about to talk about how these things are discovered.
Stuff that has been discovered.
Yeah, that were so transformative to human existence, and he thinks AI is going to be just the same as these two things.
Is that also the guy who like got fired and?
That's the Twitter guy.
Oh, okay.
Which maybe that'll come back around later. Who knows? We can't talk AI without talking Twitter. Oh, boy. Can we? I don't know.
I don't know this.
Okay. Drew said some. He's talking like Cobb. Is that his name from RoboCop 2? He's cussing at me. Damn.
Yeah, who fucking knows?
I do. While John, are you gonna guess? Oh, you did. So Brent guessed electricity and the wheel. John guessed sliced bread and electricity. Andrew said the F word. I will give Brent and John 1 point because the answer was fire and electricity.
Fire. Keep forgetting about that song by.
But you got electricity. Here's the next question. As of 2021, what country is the global frontrunner in the evolution of AI? As of 2021, what country is the global frontrunner in the evolution of AI? And I will. You know what?
I meant to say that.
I'm gonna give points to all the correct ones.
No, he said Joan.
Nobody got it right because the answer is China.
Damn it!
Come on.
That makes sense.
That's
You guys are
y'all are
racist.
wild. A supercomputer identified 77 chemicals that would prevent and end the transmission of what disease? A supercomputer has already identified the chemicals that would prevent and end the transmission of what disease?
I fucking don't know.
Maroon 5 albums?
Wow.
U2 albums, you mean?
Oh,
Nice.
there we go.
And he's
Good
back.
Application. And he's
Nobody got
back.
it right because the answer is COVID-19.
Oh,
too real.
Too real. We just don't listen to this.
I think I'll wait for the research papers.
I know.
Thank you.
We don't trust AI now. Here we go. What? No, wait. Name one of the 2 largest AI companies on the planet. So here's what I'll say: is I'll give you a point for each one you get right. Andrew, I just read your answer to the other one. I was like, what? But I see what you're saying.
Fuck,
so you can guess 2, and I'll give you a point for each one. But
Can I guess 3?
no, there are 2 AI companies that are the largest in the world. What are they? Everybody wants to be a cat. Everybody gets a point because Google is one of them, but no one gets a second point because the second company is NVIDIA.
NVIDIA, really?
They make those chips.
Whoa. That's interesting.
The barbecue ranch
Lay's,
ones, baby.
Yeah.
We talking
answer, Hot Cheetos. They have the largest AI. I'm just kidding. Here we go.
Chester's been working.
In what year did Elon Musk predict AI will overtake and grow more intelligent than the entire human species? What year does Elon Musk predict AI will overtake and grow more intelligent than the human species?
I get a second guess? Like John?
Wait, why did you guys pick?
I'm not going to give anyone a point because no one is that close. The answer is 2025. That's just in 3 years.
Oh.
He thinks AI will be on top. Our chief, what does he want to be called now? Twitter guy?
Chief Twit.
Chief Twit.
Yeah.
Chief Twit.
That little twat.
Okay, come on. Google video game. Oh, wait, sorry. Google has a video game playing AI called DeepMind that beat the majority of players on what 1998 released video game. So the first test they had with this robot that can play video games, he beat every player he played up against this game that came out in 1998.
I think Tetris is older. Yeah.
1998.
It would make sense, but like,
1998 video game?
Video
game. A game?
It's a game that released in 1998. And he played this as his first, as a test that he beat.
I was going to say Pong, but Pong is older too.
1998. This is an awesome game, BT Dubs. And I've played it, so that list is tiny.
Weirdly, it's Donkey Kong N64.
I know. 1998. What game came out in 1998? Very popular, I think.
No fucking clue.
Can I plug a book?
Plug a book?
Yeah.
Sure.
Y'all should read The Age of Spiritual Machines.
Okay.
It's a wild.
Sorry, we got to go to a break, Brent. Sorry. Here we go. So John guessed Mario Kart, Drew guessed GoldenEye, and Brent guessed Tetris. The answer is StarCraft. 1998 StarCraft.
That makes sense.
Damn,
Of course it's
scary.
I will say the games
StarCraft.
that you guessed, I think the AI would have beaten like a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah.
Like I could play Tetris against,
I played StarCraft against AI, and
no cheat codes.
it would still.
What are you, Zerg, Terran, Protoss?
I would do
about the Protoss, baby.
Yeah,
I mean Protoss. I know you got to be close to those damn shield things, but it's
Terran,
worth it.
I just think that Terran, when you're a Terran race, you're just kind of like building a lot of shit for it just to fall really quickly.
Plus, they have the cool Marines that just shoot machine. They have
They
the
don't
coolest
do
sound.
anything. Yeah, they have
the cool sounds.
Yeah. They just look cool.
You know who wins? You got to pick Kerrigan, doesn't she?
Yeah,
she's both.
Yeah.
No, she's a Terran, and then she turns.
Yeah, she's and then you find out Terrans aren't great.
I'm more of a sex guy than
Isn't there a sequel where there's like a fourth race? I don't.
Sexcraft. I've also played that too.
Here we go.
Hey.
Points update. Brent and John are tied at 2. No.
Okay.
Here we go. Since 2020, what human feeling have robots shown the ability to emote in order to request service?
Say it again.
In 2020, what human feeling have robots shown the ability to emote in order to request service?
Yeah,
so robots can now understand and feel this emotion.
Damn, dude.
John guessed horny. Brent. Oh wait, nope. That's a private text from John. Brent guessed empathy and Drew guessed anger. The correct answer is pain. In 2020, robots can now feel pain.
That's fucked up.
Pain. And they can request self-repair.
Hey, now we all can and should.
Yes. And I think that actually, John, you should get the point because how can you get horny without pain? Am I right? All right. Here we go.
The wrong one.
Last question.
Like that's my favorite one. That one right there.
What percentage of human jobs, and here's what I'll say with this. Okay. Price is Right rules because we need a winner. What percentage of human jobs will AI replace by the year 2030? What percentage of human... This one's actually really sad.
I think I know this one.
What percent... Price is Right rules. I will just go closest because...
Oh, shit. Hold on. You closest?
Closest with... Yeah, I'll say just closest.
Oh, never mind. John, that's too crazy.
I think we overdid it.
I think we might have overdid it.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know.
Closest rules, Brett, you get it because the answer is 30%. 1 in 3 jobs.
Wait, you went over.
I know, but there has to be a winner.
So he said prison rules earlier.
Okay, prison rules means
prison
that
rules
prison rules means that nobody gets any more points because I'm the daddy now.
Oh,
You never got shanked before?
Brent and John, you technically tied it 2. Drew, you guessed it 1, and Siri got all of them right. Of course, and it just took all my money from my bank account.
Dang.
Oh well, I do. Oh, sorry. We'll be right back. Which one? Nope. All right. I want to talk about this because we talked about some of the lines I wrote down, and I don't know if y'all wrote any down, but my favorite lines came from the little boy Hob, bad boy Hob. These are some of the some of the lines.
Bad boy. He's a bad kid.
I mean, in the beginning,
Hob your favorite character, Delvin?
Yes. I mean, honestly, maybe dream role for me as a child because they let me cuss like that on TV.
Get to hold a gun?
Hell yeah, I get to like talk to a
true.
grown woman the way that he talks.
Gets to shoot Robocop in the fucking head.
Here's the
like,
lines
point
he
blank.
has. Here's my top 3 lines. In the beginning, he says, "Can't shoot a kid, can you, fucker?" Straight
Yeah.
to Robocop's
I like
face.
that.
He's basically he's alphaing Robocop
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
beginning.
definitely.
Yeah.
And then he sort of gets on his level because the last thing that Hobbs says.
You think that kid got bullied when he went back to school?
No, I don't think anyone fucked with him. No.
Definitely not, yeah.
Here's his last line. So maybe that's his first line that I heard, and here's his last line to close out his life. Yeah. He says, "I'm gonna die.
Oh, yeah,
you know
sure
what
had
that's
this
like,
one.
don't you? It really sucks." And then he passes away. Third for me was the surgeon. They show the brain transfer, and the surgeon says, he says, "I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm hungry." That's what he says during the surgery. Yeah. And then that's how it ends. So I guess it's to show the surgeon just kind of doesn't give an F or whatever. But really insane. There's maybe 100 lines that I could have written down. But those 3 really stuck out.
There was one where he's like, it looks like he's going over to whoop someone's ass or something like that.
Well, that made me crack.
Yeah.
That guy that made me laugh so hard. That guy, he was right.
Those lines just like come out of nowhere though.
Yeah.
It's just like there's sometimes where it's like it's an attempt to be like, you know, kind of a genuine like serious moment or something, but then like someone I forget the name of the woman or some even Hob, you know, they will like their outburst of like some
Anger
sort of weird dramatic
or whatever,
line is just like, are you fucking serious or something? Or just like, wait, what are the fuck?
And he'll say bitch. He'll be like, are you serious, bitch? Like he'll just yell.
That kid won the Oscar, right?
Yes, and all of his lines were improv, by the way.
Yeah.
He came on set. The role was for a 50-year-old man, and he said, "I got this." And
they rewrote the script. Like
they didn't rewrite shit. He showed up, and they were like, "You just live in the moment, kid." And he just started cussing.
He was
at
like
everyone.
he was like the AD's nephew, I think, and he just wandered
he
on
was just an
set.
asshole kid that showed up on set. Kind of wild. Why do you think that they cast? Well, and this is even broader than Hob because there's a lot of fucked up kids in this. We talked about the Little League kids beating up and filming the owner.
Insane.
Why do you think there was such a focus on? Was this in the first movie? Youth that were this violent?
I don't think there was
I don't
that
think so.
movie.
Right?
I think this might have been one of those attempts to just try to make it edgier. Like it feels like you're watching.
It's edgy.
It's borderline like exploitation movie basically. Like you're kind of like
Kidsploitation.
You're getting to very Grindhouse-esque type of thing. I think Roger Ebert said it was like, I mean, he condemned the use of like that, you know, basically a child being like so murderous and over the top,
multiple murdering kids.
And it's funny when you think about it, only because of the fact that like it's. The movie makes him seem like a giant asshole, and then it tries to give him like this really weird, like heart-filled death.
Yeah.
like
to make you, because they try to pull on your heartstrings because it's kind of like tapping into
he's still a
Murphy's
kid.
empathy, and it's like, you didn't fucking earn this. What are you
definitely
doing?
not?
Like I almost expected them to bring the weird flashbacks back that they totally dropped in the movie at a certain point of like seeing his kid's face when he sees like the kid dying or something. But no, they just kind of like dropped that.
He got shot in the head and thought of his kid one time, and then that was it.
Yeah,
They
and then he
forgot.
just kind of dropped it.
Well, did the reset thing actually work? I'm trying to understand
No,
what
he shocks him. He shocks it out of himself.
So he actually is like clear now. He's gone clear. He's good.
They say it in the movie. If
He's
they wouldn't have
level
actually,
7 at the end.
Yeah.
If they wouldn't have actually like said it, then I wouldn't know what the fuck just happened.
I thought he was trying to kill himself. Like I thought it was that dark where he was like, "I hate my life. I'm gonna go walk to this
That's the
transformer."
theme. I mean, apparently, like the failed experiments of RoboCop 2, they say in the movie they keep committing suicide because they keep reviving
that
dead
stuff,
people.
And they're all ex-cops. You're like,
yeah,
It's true because there is the montage where they show one that his defect is he just starts shooting everyone, and then the second one whose defect is his face is burned off, and you're like, okay, like damn, they got to get this right.
He pulls his helmet off and all his flesh goes
and the third one shoots himself in the head.
And it's just a bonkers like.
It's played up for laughs though, because and then it cuts to the old man. The old man's like, $90 million on this shit or something like that. It's just
that's the stuff. Not like that dialogue, but the actual montage. That's the stuff that feels closest to the first one to me. Of kind of like, oh, this feels like the satire of the first one. But what I was gonna say earlier, like with the kids, like just how extreme the world of Detroit is now, like. It kind of feels like they learned the wrong lessons from the first one.
Yeah.
And so they're like dialing up the edginess, the kind of like the whole scene of like the panel of people being like, asking like, oh, can he volunteer? Can he do like volunteer work, or like all we see him do is shoot? And like, is he that very much feels like a kind of like modern day, like, one of these like snowflake things. Like it just feels like, I don't know, like them trying to like, I don't know if that's like Frank Miller, like who that is that feels like Frank Miller.
It might have been both. I mean, I think Kirshner tried to throw a lot of like, he was a big fan of the way how that first movie was handled. So he tried to like,
the conflict
maybe trying to replicate. I mean, maybe he didn't obviously, nail it, but like,
It's real weird because by the end of the first one, it makes it seem like RoboCop's gonna make a difference in the city.
Yeah,
and then by the end of this one, you're like, oh, who gives a shit that he's here? Like he makes no difference here because something is always popping up, and it always seems to be getting worse. It seems like the kids are in on it now, and now the later generations are gonna grow up to be even crazier criminals. And stuff like that. So it just kind of sucks on how it really J.J. Abrams this bitch of like, let's backtrack like on that good one. We're gonna roll it back too crazy.
Somehow RoboCop
we tied it up way too neat in the first one. There's a ton of loose ends here.
I want to see the backstory of that little league fucking robber duo, because the coach is like in on it too.
That's a spinoff I want to see.
When they turn into the gang from the Warriors, the baseball team.
Oh yeah,
the Bats. Remember the Bats?
Because that. God. Yeah, and then that dude gets like the coach gets killed in like almost horrific fashion, and then there's like a scene of him like he's screaming at the corpse.
Talking to him.
That's how fucked up the city is too, where like Murphy's like gonna go disarm him, and Lois like shoots him and was like, "What are you doing? Shoot him!" And you're like, "What?" He was trying to save him.
The police thing is really interesting in this because it seems like he is like a heroic figure to just police who are on strike. Like we see that often, and it seems like off screen, because after he shocks himself, he's like, put me down, and he like gets them, and we don't really see this happening, but he gets them to like stop the strike, and they all go with him to get Kane, and they get Kane, and luckily Kane has the money to cover their like past pay or whatever. But I don't know what he told those police officers apart from like, let's go get Kane.
They only banded together when they saw one of their brothers in arms on the ground.
Basically shock himself. Yeah.
It's we're missing. Wild. Yeah, it's like leading into that third act, we're missing like it doesn't make sense if you only saw the first RoboCop, but this RoboCop talks a lot more and has like, like he has more dialogue and stuff. Like we're missing kind of a like speech, I think, by like either RoboCop or like the police chief or like somebody who like gets the cops to like put down the picket signs and like go help him take down Kane.
It's just an interesting. It's just a crazy thread to even throw in, because you assume the violence is happening because the police aren't around. So I don't know if after that moment all of these crimes stopped. You know, like Little League kids aren't beating up people anymore because the cops are back. Does that make sense?
I
don't know. Maybe honestly, maybe answered in RoboCop 3 because that definitely isn't answered in this at all. Or is crime still at an all-time high?
Are the Little League kids back in 3?
there's
like,
other.
Does he fix it by ending the police strike?
They're all Robo kids at the end.
Oh no! Versus cops, kids versus cops.
The situation definitely gets like. I mean, the overall like situation erodes.
Even cool. So the cops didn't help at all.
Like I think that by the third movie, it's an actual like cops versus OCP movie.
Oh, okay.
Sort of. I mean,
sense.
even then, like it's they kind of dance
but
around that.
OCP, if you move the letters around, spells cop. So.
Oh yeah. Damn, I guess you're right.
Cop versus cop.
Yeah.
Am I right?
And that's what I thought this was going to be. Where like, man, why did they go with such an outrageous design for RoboCop 2 in this one? He's like all steampunked out. He's like, it looks like the first RoboCop's way more efficient, and he can.
He honestly looks like George Lopez from Spy Kids, or was it Spy Kids? What movie is that?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm talking about? Is that Spy Kids?
Yeah, I see.
Wait, George Lopez was in Spy Kids?
Spy Kids 3D,
Yeah,
baby.
he looks like MODOK.
Game over.
He looks like MODOK or some shit. Like,
He's got like a screen face, which our guy has
Boy,
too.
those effects, huh? Those effects on the screen face.
I know. It's no wonder he used to scare me as a kid. Shit looks horrible.
It is scary. Well, let's we've talked about what other things you want to talk about?
The stop motion animation. When it comes to like the good things in this movie, the stop motion animation, the action sequence from that very end, the Kane versus RoboCop. I think if I'm not, I mean I could be mistaken, but I think at one point Jon Favreau had compared like the making of the first Iron Man movie or influences on that first Iron Man movie to RoboCop 2 because he
does the thing where
small robot versus big robot basically.
It's also the thing where he jumps on his back and he's like, "This looks important," and rips that
out.
Yeah,
that you can see the
thing, and you're like, "This
straight from
it."
That whole sequence is cool. I think maybe when I thought of it before watching, again yesterday for the first time in a while, before I would always like kind of think of that, like that was RoboCop 2 to me. It was just like that fight sequence because it's just really cool. You don't see a whole lot of in general, you don't see a whole lot of stop motion animation like past, I guess what is this like 1990 and stuff. So say for like some animated movies, this is really cool to see in like a live action.
It still has a little of both, which is
nice. And it's pretty cool to see. I mean, it's goofy as fuck because they're just throwing each other through buildings, and at one point they fall literally through the fucking street.
That happens in Iron Man, maybe.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's nice action there in that sense. Like the buildup is, if you're waiting the entire movie just to see that kind of makes the experience kind of worth it.
I mean, even some of the effects too, when like Murphy's chopped in half and stuff, and they have to use like his robotic face and stuff.
That's a pretty effective fake face.
It's really good. His eyes are like rolled back like crazy, and he's like jaws convulsing, and you're like, this is fucking scary.
Yeah, I mean, this came out
too good.
This came out in '90, right? So it's like the CGI revolution happened with Jurassic Park in '93, and like I feel like this movie is in this like kind of precious like specific moment right before CG comes in and like revolutionizes everything.
And I'm gonna say months after this, I just Googled this, Terminator 2 comes out, which is like the kind of the staple for
so Terminator 2,
sequels.
then like Jurassic Park really revolutionized everything. And so like we're in this era of like everything kind of has to be done practically. And like they're trying to figure out the stuff with like the face, like the computerized kind of like screen face. But it does, like, I do really appreciate that stuff. Like the kind of like of its time,
it's
special effects.
Super admirable of this movie still to feel like this 80s, 90s type of movie. Super visceral. I think it's still really cinematic. Like there's a scene, there's like a chase scene, and there's a shot looking through a broken window at RoboCop who's chasing them. And I was like, oh, that's pretty damn cool. Like it's still very much like a well-made movie.
That shot where Kane runs up the elevator.
It's great. That's the thing that scared me.
It scared me.
So I think you still have a lot to appreciate, at least for its time, like the stuff that really kind of still works in the world. It's obviously not focused on a singular story, not even really so much about Alex Murphy as much, and it definitely introduces a ton of new themes and I mean like giant things that it wants to comment on. And there's still also the weirdest thing for me is the fact that in 2043 the only thing that has changed, that's what it said.
That's what it's fucking
the only thing that has changed in our world is we have a RoboCop. Like Cars are still old.
No ozone layer.
Everything. We have no ozone. Everything still looks the same though. We just have a robot cop. Like all the TVs are this. Everything's still the same. We just upgraded one thing, and I think that is like a wild idea.
You know what I really want to see now, and this. I mean, modern movie making and like the state of everything has kind of broken my brain. But I want to see like a RoboCop 2059 or something like that. Like, I want to see.
You want Denny Villeneuve to go in.
I don't think he's the guy for it, but like, I think it'd be sick if like, I don't know, the like Lee Winnell who did like Upgrade. I think I mean, they're similar movies, but like, I think he could make like a really sick RoboCop like sequel. That I don't know. Like,
do you think it works grounded though? Because I feel like part of RoboCop
it shouldn't be grounded.
Okay,
it shouldn't be. Like, you have to do, and it's hard because like Verhoeven is such a specific guy who's great at it, and like not a lot of people are.
And to be honest, not a lot of those kinds of movies are even being made now. You know,
that's
like,
true too. Yeah, especially if it's like a mid-budget action thing. I mean, it's telling that like the most recent RoboCop was like $100 million blockbuster that was like
franchise starting.
I haven't seen it, so I'm not sure if this is the case, but I would assume that I know it's
super
PG-13.
grounded. It's super grounded.
Yeah, I know it's PG-13, so I would assume that like a lot of those hard edges in the first RoboCop and second RoboCop are like very sanded off. And so I don't know, like I would love to see it though. Like I would, it'd have to be some like I don't know who would make it if it was an actual like.
You got a lot of interesting, relevant stuff going on.
The director of Bicentennial Man.
Neil Blomkamp was directing a reboot up until recently.
That motherfucker wants to do all the franchise.
I know, that guy's been attached.
They won't give him Alien. They won't give him RoboCop.
Hey, they gave him Gran Turismo.
He's the Brian Fuller of the movie world.
Wasn't he going to make Lord of the Rings? Like, he's Halo and stuff. Like, he's wanted everything.
Always a bridesmaid.
Yeah.
Never bridesmaid.
Abe Forsyth is directing the reboot so far.
It's happening.
So it needs to go so far in the future that now they've perfected the RoboCop formula, and there's RoboCops, and then they somehow get corrupt, and the one RoboCop needs to stand against them and outsmart them, and
it's iRobot.
I just think there's like it's ripe for more like satirical like commentary. Like I think you could do some, especially now. Like we don't have to get into it, but like I think you could do some incredible. Oh man, I think you could do some incredible like satirical comedy with RoboCop now. That
might be.
You know who did?
You'd have to have a deft hand.
You know what? James Gunn still kind of a little bit. You know, like there's not many that still exist that are new and big budget.
I mean, the subject is probably hotter than ever now, so you probably have to get someone who's probably not afraid to.
Who knows?
Possibly,
who knows how to do that?
Shane Black.
Maybe not.
Buddy Cop.
No, definitely.
Let's do it. I'm in.
Oh boy,
it's like the nice guys, but with RoboCop.
Well,
that'd be great.
Let's go around the horn and give our final thoughts on RoboCop 2. Drew, what do you think of RoboCop 2?
RoboCock?
RoboCon?
These are all porn parodies of RoboCop.
I think I have the nostalgic rose-colored lenses on my glasses because I don't think it's that bad, but I get why people think it is bad and why people think that. I get why people think that there's only one
great,
movie.
Like I love this movie, but it sucks.
Because some of it I did have fun. Because the movie ended and me and my two roommates were watching it, John and Ian. And
you hated that they didn't hit the theme song. We didn't talk theme
that
song.
Is one of the things that I did hate. They didn't put the full-on theme song on here. And I waited till the end of the credits. I'm like, please, God, just play a minute of it. And it didn't.
I want to jump in and say, like, and to Drew, too, I guess. Like, to Drew and I, one of the things that's synonymous with RoboCop also is the theme song.
It's so good.
Like, growing up, that was one of the, the first theme songs that hummed it up. Yeah. And so this movie does not have the original theme song. It's the only movie in the franchise. The first and the third movie have the Basil Laurentiis.
That is a really weird choice.
You're right. This movie sucks.
I can't even remember any songs from this movie.
And then the second one has its own.
The score is really forgettable.
It just has pa-pa-pa-da-dun-dun, and that's all it does every single time. RoboCop will pop up on the screen and pa-pa-pa-da-dun-dun.
He's literally doing the robot.
Shit. And so anyway, I remember this movie ending and being like, that sucked. And then my buddy Ian being like, it wasn't that bad. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. It wasn't that bad, but it's not good.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I compared this to the Jurassic Park franchise.
Okay.
Where
here we go.
the first one is the best one, and the more it goes on, the worse it gets.
So you're saying Trevorrow should do a RoboCop world?
Well, I meant the reboot is crazy because the reboot has names like Michael Keaton and
Sam
Gary
Jackson.
Oldman and Sam
Joel
Jackson.
Kinnaman.
Nope. And so you're like Rick Flag. But yeah, and so you're like, damn, it should have.
Yeah.
It's one of those franchises that should be
around
forever, like Aliens and Predator and all that stuff, where like these ideas are so good that it's just going to be with us forever. But RoboCop doesn't seem like it's going to burn out.
Yeah, it's kind of in a spot where I think it's due for like a low budget, low stakes kind of thing.
Like Nightmare on Elm Street, where it's like, man, that movie should have gone on forever, and they did the reboot, and we're like, nope.
Yeah,
I think I mean, just to jump in real quick, I think they need to take a
Blumhouse.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like an approach closer to like John Wick than blockbuster.
Yeah, you don't need a big writer's
sci-fi
room
action thing,
like a Judge Dredd, if you will.
Yeah, like a Judge Dredd.
You don't need a RoboCop CU.
No,
RCU. Yeah, we don't need that.
Yeah, I mean,
although I would love to write. If anyone listening, I will write whatever you want. I'll do a RoboCop universe. I got stories for Hobbs.
Yeah, but
got the kids.
A prequel to Hobbs just 5 years before this movie.
But yeah, movie needed more ED 209. 2 out of 5.
Nice. Brent, what'd you think about this movie?
Yeah, I also gave it a 2 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I think it's not very
We're doing
good.
ratings. That's nice. Let's do it.
I think it's a pretty bad movie. Like I said, it does not, it's not a good chaser after the first RoboCop, which is like top 10 fucking action movies for me. I think like it's really messy. I think all the stuff I appreciate about this movie are like those weird idiosyncratic things that exist in movies that were made like I'd say like pre-2000s or like even pre-2010s before like they really started like shaving all of the edges off of everything to make it like as like easily digestible for everyone. Like this movie is making specific weird choices, like making the heavy of the movie like a 10-year-old psychotic kid, or doing all that weird kind of like body horror stuff with him getting destroyed in the middle of it, and all the the psycho kids who are like, filming each other like beating up the shop owner and stuff, like really just like dark stuff that you just wouldn't see in a modern movie at all.
There's a kid that tells him like, "Why don't you go fuck a refrigerator?" Remember
that line? That was the line I was trying to remember.
They spray paint him. I think they're
these
like
kids. I swear to God.
Remember they walk into he walks into the arcade and they like start throwing shit at him. There's no hope for this for the city.
That's lost. So it's the stuff like that, and like the craft, like just seeing like an 80s or 90s action movie. Period. I just will always appreciate just kind of like the craft that goes into it and like the way they put together like the action sequences and stuff. So, there's good stuff in it, but it's it's a bummer that it's following like one of the best ever, and is really kind of sloppy in what it's kind of trying to say, and kind of like just the plot is very convoluted and weird, and ends abruptly. So. Yeah, 2 out of 5, I think, for me.
John, what do you think about this movie?
I guess 2.5 out of 5. I guess for me.
All right, it's going up a little bit.
I guess to me, it's just the saving grace is just that ending action sequence. That action sequence is just really cool. Like the way Brent said, like the craft that goes into that. I mean, you don't see a whole lot of stop motion animation anymore like that, and it was really cool to see. Even just rewatching it now is pretty cool to see. It does, have the unfortunate thing of following, like, a masterpiece. Like, the original RoboCop is a classic, so you can't touch that. I mean, this is obviously very, very noticeable, just like sequel bait.
Dip just in
like,
quality.
Yeah, it's very much like cash grabby. There is, there's hints of like, if it trying to say more than what it, or say more than what it's actually doing, I guess. But it's it's a very sloppy movie. It's weirdly uneven. It's mean. Some parts are downright just off-putting to watch. Unless you're an actual like. I'm a RoboCop fan, so obviously this does live on my shelf. I own a Blu-ray copy of it. But I don't see why other people would want to kind of watch this unless you really, 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 really love the first one. Yeah. Because then this leads to RoboCop 3, which is, believe it or not, a worse movie than this one. Not in a way where it's just like, because that movie doesn't say anything at all. And it's funny, but that one's very noticeably a cash grab sequel. But it's still sad. I guess it's just sad to see how like how far a franchise kind of falls like quickly.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Jaws. But yeah, so if you're a huge fan of the franchise, or and can stomach some pretty brutal sequences, because some sequences are pretty brutal. I'm looking at the scalpel down the center.
God, yeah.
That's like just like straight up, just like almost sadistic, like torture porn,
well,
like
a
sequence
to scare him, didn't you?
Yeah,
like that line he says is like, oh.
Plus, he like crushes his girlfriend's head.
Yeah,
Robocop 2,
like snapping it. You hear the sound design too. So yeah, overall a mean movie, but like it's not it's definitely not the worst in this franchise.
But if you're a RoboCop fan, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not many options out there.
Slim pickings.
You did this to yourself by liking RoboCop.
Yeah.
So do it.
I would say I was probably near like 2-ish, but I would give it maybe like 2.5 to 3 now.
Yeah.
Just because, as we're talking about it, I realize just how it's still somewhat an original movie, and it's very visceral. It's super cinematic, and it's definitely, I don't think it was boring watching it, which I think is
definitely not
a good thing for a movie. Now, it's not boring because it's just wild, but it's not boring, which is like, there's a lot of movies that you watch and you're just like, oh man.
It's pure shock value. That's why
it's definitely trying to say a whole lot of things, and it doesn't necessarily revolve around Alex Murphy
this
anymore.
This is the best part of the movie, the fucking the violin.
Oh yeah, wild, right? So flexible guy playing was it Born to Be Wild?
This was truly the most unsettling moment in the movie for me.
Yeah.
Because it starts showing it without context, and I was like, what the fuck is this? I think the kids were right before this.
Yeah.
Or right after, and I was just like, this is I'm very uncomfortable.
And that's kind of where like the movie is a satire, but it borderlines just like a straight up like parody or farce movie. Although it does people will say it's incredibly poignant. Like obviously there's still a lot of conversations around police and how far they go, and conversations about like how a city can go bankrupt. Like literally in this line, someone from OCP says it's time to take Detroit private. Like we're gonna buy this city. It's wild, but it's like it happens, right? Like we buy stadiums and go into debt for NFL teams and stuff. So I think it still has a lot of very like poignant things, which is unique to RoboCop. Like I think this is still a really unique movie to watch. And you know what? This is like Total Recall, RoboCop, Starship, all of them. This is still like on one of the Mount Rushmores of
that's the Verhoeven trilogy. I feel like RoboCop.
He's up there, yeah.
Recall,
and Kirshner directed it. That's
I thought you
wild.
meant this movie and those movies.
No.
I was like, oh, the
I'm
character.
just saying the character.
Okay, cool.
So I think it's still
super confused
up there. Fun movie to watch. It's not a super wholesome movie to watch, but you'll have a fun time. Okay, speaking of having a fun time. Oh no, that one's too long. There's a shorter one. We're talking plugs. Brent, what do you have to plug?
Oh man. All the Delphin Pod Patreon stuff. Oh yeah.
Great reaction
Fans
from the crowd.
love it. That's actually all the subscribers. Right there.
They're clapping with their ass.
I'm trying to fade it. I don't.
You can't. Oh, you can fade.
I mean, I just have to it's hard because I have to physically fade it on the thing.
Physically fade it. All the Delphin Pod Patreon stuff. Lots of cool stuff going on there all the time. Top fives. Talking like award season stuff because Delphin and I are big nerds for that. Fun one-offs. Speaking of Verhoeven, we did like a big action movie draft that I ended up with a Verhoeven movie with Tom Cruise in it. That I think would be an incredible thing if it ever existed.
That would
exists.
be erotic, like in a
and he's alive. Verhoeven's alive.
Verhoeven's alive, and he's still making stuff.
He
made a wild ass nun movie like last year.
That's also erotic, right?
Yeah, it's erotic and
was
it's
it Cons? What was it called?
Crazy.
What's your favorite
Benedetta?
Benedetta.
What's your favorite Verhoeven movie?
I don't know. I like.
Is it Basic Instinct? I know it's.
No,
Basic
it's
Instinct.
not. I enjoy. Did he made Total Recall? Right. Yes.
Yes, he made.
I like that one. I think you know why.
I was going to say Total Recall.
Total
Also,
Recall,
I also love Elle. Elle is it's a challenging movie, but it's fucking great.
I think Total Recall is where he hits his
that's
when it comes to the sci-fi stuff that he did. Like I think Total Recall is
you
like
think
that.
This is the real Quaid. It is.
Hey,
but that's it. Yeah.
John, what do you have to plug?
I'm gonna plug. Oh shit! I was about to plug this podcast. I guess not. I'm gonna plug Countdown to Infinity. That Marvel podcast is still going on. Is it still going on, Duffin?
Yeah, it's going on every single week.
Okay, cool. I'm just checking because the She-Hulk hasn't been around in a while, and we're getting ready to do some.
Delphin's response to that sounded just resigned.
Yeah, I know, exactly, yeah.
Hey, we're still charting top 200, baby.
This is the real podcast here. You can just air out what you feel. No,
I feel a little like the city of Detroit, honestly.
Like any of the shopkeepers in RoboCop 2.
I feel like I got kids coming to my pawn shop.
We got we got Wakanda Forever coming up in a couple of weeks, and that should be exciting. It looks like a really good movie, and I'm excited to see some.
You know what I want to get? I want to get when we record the Wakanda Forever. I want to get the
Rihanna.
one of these. I guess like hits that I'm gonna have is the cool like Wakanda. You know, like the
drums.
Yeah, I think I want to get that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
No, it needs to be the Dora Milaje theme.
I get 4. I can do 4.
Oh, nice, cool.
You don't want to do the.
Yeah, I'm gonna want the whole thing.
You don't bet. Yeah.
Shit, I forgot my plug. Listen to what I just plugged.
Yeah,
there you go.
Drew, what do you have to plug?
Mostly the Countdown Strikes Back. Love that Star Wars, baby. We got Andor, we got Tales of the Jedi. Mando season 2 is gonna start.
We're coming back in the High Republic too.
After that, we're coming all up in the High Republic. Yeah, it's gonna be exciting. And then check out the Dirt Sheet Radio with my boy John Escudero on the
Dirt Sheet Radio.
the switchboard.
Oh, what?
I don't know. I think that's what the kids say.
I think the kids.
They also cover the professional wrestling world. So if you like that,
yes,
there you go. Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening to this, everyone. We'll see you next week for another sequel.
We're all gonna fuck.